Happy New Year. It's our first recording in 2022. Elaine Williams is here with my fabulous and amazing co-host, Kathy Keegan. Hi, Kathy.
Hey, how are you? Happy New Year. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you, too.
And hear you for our listeners.
I know. Thank you. Yes. Whether you're listening or watching, we're so excited, and we have this amazing, fabulous guest today. And I just want to say, if you're new to us, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. Kathy and I are both coaches, and we both have comedic improv backgrounds. And we wanted to create a podcast that was like pulling back the curtain to show you the ins and outs and the not so sexy stuff about starting a business, having a business, being an entrepreneur, being a coach. Oh yeah. And being human. There were so many things we wish we had known when we were in these big fancy masterminds. And so our goal is to educate, to entertain, and to hopefully connect, because wherever you are in your business and life, if you know that you're not alone, that can be so helpful. So that's why we started the podcast. And we have our very first male guest on today. Woo! I'm so excited. This man has spoken all over the country. He's had many successful businesses. He and I have known each other for over 11 years. And without further ado, I want to welcome Roland Thompson. Woo!
Welcome, Roland.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Elaine. This is really an honor and a privilege to be on your podcast. I've been really indulged in your podcast these last few months, and really enjoyed them. There are some really good ones out there that I can connect with. I appreciate that. I didn't notice that there was no guys on them, though, but now I'm more aware of that.
Now you're like, oh God. What do I do?
And all the men out there and everything, I'll try to represent you the best I possibly can for our gender.
You're awesome. Thank you, Roland.
No pressure. No pressure.
Not whatsoever.
So I wanted to have you on our show because you have this new mission, and you've always been such a heartfelt guy, and you've always, since I first met you in the mastermind that we were in a million years ago, I remember thinking, this guy is so cool. And then you would come see me at my restaurant in New York, and, we've been through some stuff. Will you tell us a little bit about your Hearts of the Fathers?
Well, thanks for asking. It's actually a calling. I got my little memory thing popped up on my Facebook. It said it was 4 years ago yesterday that I created the foundation. It was actually created as a movement. And last year I got my 501c3 status. But it wasn't anything that I was actually seeking, if that makes sense. It was something that was, I had to have a 2x4 alongside the head a couple of times to make me realize that it's a calling. Nope, this is what you're meant to do. And the messages that I got were so profound that for me, that it was, oh, okay, I got your message. This is what I'm supposed to be doing from up above. And so that's basically how I got started. But I go through the several little points that happened along the way that made me realize that it is a calling. But just have to take my word for it. My life is dedicated to it now.
Awesome.
First of all, one of the things I recognize that tool, the 2x4. I used that a lot over the years for many, many, probably more decades than I needed to. It's not in my toolbook now, but it is definitely one that I'm familiar with.
Did you use it on your husband a lot? I'm trying to figure out.
No, I really, it was easier to use it on myself.
Oh, yeah. No, it's how all of a sudden I call it atoms bouncing off the top of your skull, for those that don't believe in inspiration, that it's like, oh my gosh, it is like, it's almost, the result is like almost getting hit alongside the head with a 2x4.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and it's
I was
good
thinking
because
about going out and trying it just to compare them.
Oh, Roland, don't.
We do not recommend that to any of our listeners.
Don't try this at home, kids. No, but Roland, tell us what it is. I know it's Hearts of the Fathers. Can you just tell us a little bit about your story?
Well, I'll tell you what my mission statement is. Maybe that might help, and what my vision statement is. So my mission statement is we're members of the Sunset Generation who are passionately invested in making the world better by empowering the rising generation to live the reason they are here. My vision is Heart of the Father's foundation provides the tools and education needed to effectively connect the Sunset Generation and the rising generation, creating a world where all are inspired to work together as they live their true life's purpose.
That's beautiful.
And where it really was impacted was a few years ago. My first 2x4 was I was going to Boston, and I was going to be having lunch with. It was amazing how it happened. I was on Facebook, and I saw this man being honored in Boston, and I thought, wow, I wonder if that's the same Captain Tom Kelly that I served with in Vietnam on my third tour. And I never did get to thank him for something really special that he did back there. And it was in 1973. And he was a Medal of Honor winner. He was being honored in Boston. And I reached out. It was so weird because I thought, well, I found this, by coincidence, found a phone number. I mean, think about it. I'm on 3,000 miles away. And I found his phone number, called it up, and left a voicemail. And well, later on that day, I got a call, but it happened to be at Red Robin celebrating my daughter's, one of her birthdays, and our family was together. And I didn't take the call, and which was like, oh, I just don't want to take the call because I wanted to focus on my family. And so when I came home, I was walking into the kitchen, the phone rang again, and I knew by caller ID it was him because I plugged it in my phone. And we talked for 45 minutes. And it was really cool because I told him, I said, I'm thinking of I'll be going to Boston in a couple of months. Maybe we can get together for lunch. He said, oh, that'd be really great. I thought, what are the odds? And then I told him that one of the reasons I was going to Boston was for a conference that I was attending. But also, it's out of the blue, I'm one of these people that I'm a ready, fire, aim type person. I thought, you know what? I'm not afraid to ask. I've learned this a long time ago. Ask. The answer is no if you don't ask. It's already no. And I thought I was working on a book, and I thought it would be kind of cool to reach out to Governor Mitt Romney to do the forward in the book. I mean, what's the odds, And I've had so many yeses from asking so much over the years that I had no fear in going to ask him. And I asked Captain Kelly, I said, hey, do you know Mitt Romney? He said, well, yeah, I served in his cabinet when he was governor, and we're best friends. In fact, he moved to La Jolla, California. And I go, really? He said, oh, yeah, and he writes about me in his book, No Apologies. And I thought, wow, that's cool. So, of course, I had to go buy the book, brought it with me so that Captain Kelly, he signed it for me in there. And I sent a note to Mitt Romney. He sent a nice letter back saying that he doesn't do forwards in books, which I respect. But it was still that connection. But the point is reading that book. Now, it was boring because I don't do politics. But I got to chapter 6 in that book. And this was the first 2x4. And it talked about the boomer generation. It also talked about the generation before it, the greatest generation. Tom Brokaw talks about the greatest generation. But it talks about the boomer generation, which I'm part of, being the worst generation. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I looked into it, and I come to the same conclusion. And it's not our fault. It's just in the way things evolve in the world and stuff. And I said, I don't want to be known as the worst generation. There's got to be something I can do to make us a great generation. I don't want to leave that legacy. And that was the first aha moment. And then after that, things started realizing that, well, this rising generation are really getting, at that time Time came out with the article on the millennials, on the me, you know, and then I started realizing how much criticism they're getting, and how much the boomers are just sitting there criticizing these younger people, and it's realizing that's really not fair. We need to really reach out and learn who they are. Well, then it just slowly, and I realized that, oh my gosh, at that time I think I had like 30 grandchildren. Today I have 47, with number 48 later on this year. Yeah. My 47th granddaughter, it was a girl, so I guess I'm a grandma. I guess that's how that works. But anyway, because she's a girl, was born 1 hour before midnight on December 31st. And it was my daughter who lives near us. We all thought some of my kids live right around us in our compound, we call it. And that was like just, totally wonderful. I mean, because they've had 3 boys and now they get a girl. So it's kind of a great thing. But it's them. I'm thinking, these are the future leaders of the world.
Yes, they are.
And then I started looking into the hearing all of a sudden the thing about the suicide thing. I started researching that and realized that what I found was that every day on the average in this country, 3,703 teenagers attempt suicide. And that 15 to 20% of all youth contemplate suicide. And I thought, well, that means like 7 of my grandchildren are contemplating suicide. So I started really working into that part of it. Started tying together and realizing, what was missing there. And then the story of the bridge hit me.
That's amazing.
Anyway, I have to answer. I don't know if that kind of gives you an idea and answers the question that you asked about the foundation, but that was just mainly the beginning of it, and why it's such a passion for me.
And I as someone who was in the corporate world for many years, I never felt that, sort of the idea of millennials. I look at all these different categories with a little bit of suspicion, because we created the millennials, right? We asked them to have resumes when they were 12 years old. We asked them to go and invent something in India during the summer in their junior year of high school, and then come back and write that up and then apply to 14 schools and get into all of them. And you're 100% right. There's so much we have to learn from each other. Right. And the idea of this sort of reverse mentoring where we're learning from younger's learning from older. I think it's just such a beautiful idea. And really admitting that there's something for everybody that we can really get out of this.
Well, and that's
I have
where
goosebumps.
I think that I'm really realizing that it's slowly in this transition that I'm going through, and trying to make it not about me at all, because I can't bring, when I connect with them or with one of them, there's nothing that I could bring to them that I would push on them, or anything, lecture or anything to them that would do them any good, because I think there's no one as deaf as a person who doesn't want to listen. And you realize that what we need to do is put all that behind us, because like what you were saying, Kathy, is we're taking, well, here's what you got to do. We're all basing that on our own personal experiences and the way we were raised. Right. Here's what we were raised. But the first 50 years of my life was without technology. And today when a child's born, they wake up and it's like cell phones have always been around. Man has always been able to fly, and we cannot, there's no way for you to comprehend what it's like to be inside their head. And so we need to be really focusing on learning everything we can about them. And when I started realizing, and I started looking into this, realized with the boomers, for instance, the sunset generation, one of the other things I read was that 40% of them are lonely, and that they're also high suicide rate. And they're more successful in carrying it out than the younger people. But I think the younger people are screaming for help. Listen to me. And I see this happen a lot where the parents don't listen to them, don't acknowledge who they are. And so I came up with that and I said, if we devote our life learning who they are, really learning who they are, then they will know who we are. And I had an experience with one of my grandsons, and him and I are close now. And he came to me one day, and we were on a Zoom. He was in Monterey in the Army. And he goes, Grandpa, I don't think older people really realize how interesting their life is. But this is after I learned what I could about him. Then he started asking about me and, hey, can you tell me about this and stuff? And that was that connection. And it's so powerful. And, and it strikes me emotionally that the lack of connection and our older Sunset generation are so bullheaded and so false prideful in really getting to know who they are and letting go, being humble, being patient, learning all these, I would call them Christ attributes, and that's, so now my life is, I'm going to be 71 this year. And I'm like, I've just this morning, my meditation, I started looking at my family tree and realizing that my grandparents, what age they were when they died. And, 80, 81, 62, and those. And I'm thinking, I'm getting close to this. And I want to leave, to me, a legacy means because Roland Thompson walked on this planet, a lot of people's lives are so much better because I was here. And so my life is mainly devoted to that. So I got the foundation and
that's beautiful, Roland.
Yeah,
oh
it really
my God.
is.
Thank you. It makes me so happy because I think about when in my late teens and most of my 20s, I was such a mess. Granted, there had been a lot of trauma and stuff, but I just lived in my head, and it was such a painful place. And I'm sure that people tried to connect with me, but it was, I just think grandparents have such an opportunity, or just any old people. I read this book by Denzel Washington that he put together, and it was all these famous people who grew up with boys and girls clubs. And they talked about how it helped to have like this sort of neighborhood place to go to. And so that they weren't home alone. And several of the people like Colin Powell talked about how there were aunts on every corner. Like, before the time we're in now, families used to like stay kind of close, right? So maybe they weren't all in the same house, but people could kind of keep an eye on you in the neighborhood. There were like usually a couple old nosy ladies or whatever, like checking out the kids and stuff. And those days are gone, right? And so I just love this mission. And I've always thought in America, we value youth so much that if we can learn to treasure older people, which I am now one of them. Like, it just cracks me up. But I've always hung out with older people. I've always had older friends. Well, I think I was always searching for surrogate parents myself. But I just love that you're bringing more awareness to this.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because when you think about when we were growing, think of our data input into our brains, G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out. Think of all our data input that we had being programmed when we were growing up.
But thank God we had 3 channels. Yeah. We didn't have infinite. Right?
The black. And it's like, I never watched the news when I was growing up. How I ended up making a decision functioning by my heart is kind of this quick little story. It was like, I worked at a fast food place. My parents were married, divorced, and all this, and it was just my dad and my 2 brothers. But, I'm a senior in high school, just graduating. I'm not going to sit around and watch the news, and I'm not going to read the newspaper. I'm going to play. I'm trying to go to school. I wanted to be a chef at the time. I was working as a cook in a fast food place. Had no idea what I was really going to do. Thought maybe I wanted to be a cook. And I was standing next to this lady. We were really close. And she goes, so what are you going to do with your life? I go, what do you mean? She goes, are you just going to live with your dad and your brother for the rest of your life? What are you going to do? And I said, I have no idea. And she goes, well, my husband, he was in the Navy and he joined the Navy and he said it really had a big impact on him and he really kind of enjoyed it. Maybe you should join the Navy. Sure, I'll never forget this day. And I looked at her and I said, okay. And the next day I joined the Navy. True story. Now, at the time, I wasn't following the news. This is in '69. I did watch the July 20th, the man landing on the moon on TV, but I had really no idea about the Vietnam thing. And so anyway, I ended up going, it was like first 6 months training and everything. And then July 70, boom, my first tour of Vietnam. And so it was kind of and I did 3 tours, but it was one of those things where I look back and it's like, I wouldn't be right here today doing what I'm doing if I hadn't made that decision. And I can't regret it. I wouldn't, I'm very thankful for these experiences that I've had in this life. Realizing that these are the only things I'm going to take with me in the life after this. And we're, like I say, spiritual beings here on earth to have these human experiences so that we can help other people. Because it would take an eternity to experience all the experiences that are available to human beings. And the only way we can expand on that is other people's experiences and learning from them, reading biographies, autobiographies, And so if you have messages and you have a message that you have, just realize that you're a messenger and you need to get it out, which I appreciate you guys because this is my message and you're providing an output for me to get this message out to the millions and millions of people that are going to be watching this podcast.
You better believe it.
Yes. Millions. We are growing. It's crazy. So,
and it's a beautiful message.
Roland.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
Kathy,
not mine. It's one to believe me. If I said it was mine and I thought of it, I'd look around for that 2x4 again. But it's not my message. It's definitely coming from above.
Yeah, it's these moments of time that allow you to be able to hear, to really hear what's going on. And you were talking earlier about listening and hearing what the different generations have to say, and I forget who it is, but it's the whole idea of hearing someone into being. It's sort of by listening to what somebody says, you're hearing them into being and you acknowledge, thank you, I heard what you had to say. And so often the way we live today is all about, what's he going to say so I can say something really, really good?
Right.
What's she going to say so I can say something really, really good and show you how smart I am? As a coach, I'm still training out of me this idea, who's the question for? When I'm asking a client a question, what is the question for them or is it for me? We spend a lot of time stripping ourselves out of that situation because it's important for our clients to be heard.
Wow. And and you sit there and you think, I had this bracelet, a camouflage bracelet I always wear, a whole bunch of them, and I give them when I was speaking at colleges to the students there. I'd always give them out, and it said SWL on it, which meant survivor, winner, leader. And I would go through this. I'd go through these stories about being a survivor, not a victim, or being a winner, not a learner. Now, there is no such thing as losers. We need to get that out of our definition. Any labeling of any human being whatsoever. We're all citizens of the planet Earth.
Amen.
We're all here. No one has any more right to walk on this planet than anyone else.
Truth.
You just happen to be a human being on this planet born in Nigeria. You're not a Nigerian, or what. It's just got to get rid of labeling completely. Yep. And that's one of the messages that I want to get people out there. Mm-hmm. But now I use SWL, and I'd say it's silence while listening. And silence and listen both have the same letters in them.
Yes, they do.
And it's like, it's kind of, and for me, I would say, if you look at a listen meter talking, I'm listening. I'm way down here to 0, and I'm trying to get over here to here because I talk way more than that I should. Even now, I wonder if I'm doing it, because I'm really questioning that and just learning to really listen and really know. Because this morning I was realizing that when I tell people, one of the things I'm trying to view people is that every human being I see anywhere, I view them as they want to be loved. Every single human being wants to be loved. So I ask you, Kathy, how would you feel if you knew that every single human being in the world loved you unconditionally for who you were? How would that make
fabulous.
you feel?
It would be filling. I would feel fulfilled.
And that's what everybody really wants to strive for. And the other one is, every time I see anyone, it's like they're actually doing the best they can.
Yes.
Now, I get disagreement on this one because some people say, well, I know people that aren't doing the best they can. And it's like, how do you know they're not doing the best they can? You don't even really know who they are. Well, I've seen them do that before and they did it better than what they're doing now. But you don't know what's going on with them now.
You don't know the story. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what just happened. 100%. And I mentioned it recently that even in the science of emotions, as they study emotions, there are no universal looks, except maybe disgust that people really always get. You have to ask somebody how they feel in order to understand how they feel. And I'm the same thing about the term, the other L word, lazy. That's an outcome. That is not that. People are not that. Nobody starts out that way. Everybody wants to have a purpose. They want to be seen. They want to be recognized. And the way they're recognized might differ with different people. That can change. We want to pay attention to that. It's just important for all. Those are the basics. And I think they're the basics of what we need as human beings to thrive.
Yeah. So when I'm sitting here thinking of all the young people, I was sitting here thinking this morning and I'm thinking, well, what about somebody who is really angry at you and they feel like they hate you and stuff? And I'm thinking, well, maybe they're really who they are. Because one of the things I try to let my grandchildren know is you will always fail at what you do. That's okay. But you will never fail at who you are. And who you are is when people really don't who you are. When somebody sit there and they say they hate somebody, I'm thinking, you don't hate somebody. You hate the perception of who you think they are. It's not who they are that you hate, because they truly are, loved by somebody. That's, and they're trying to be somebody else because they haven't feel like they accept that people accept who they really are. And we got to let the young people, because I think these people come to Earth now are so special with everything happening that when I watch an 18-month-old grandchild sit there on their device, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, and how smart they are. And then when I sit there and just start listening to some of the things they say without any hesitation of worrying that they're going to be judged about something, it's so profound. And I think with the older people, when I said 40% of them are lonely, it's because they really don't have, in their mind, anyone that depends on them anymore. And to realize that this other generation needs them really bad. And it's such a broken connection. And so it's, and we see the results of that connection a lot. It's like, I shared with Elaine my bridge story, if that's something you want to share, I would. But that we need to really fix the bridge instead of just rescuing the people.
Yeah, Roland, why don't you tell us the short version of the bridge, because it is a profound story.
Well, and I read it 20 years ago, and it hit me, one of those 2x4 things, just a few months ago. But while they were standing on the riverbank, the townspeople were alerted by several people frantically screaming as they were being carried downstream of the raging river. They, moved by their plight, the caring townspeople immediately rescued these people from the river. As time went on, more and more people were being swept down the river. Research revealed what everyone suspected. The bridge further up the river that was connecting the communities was badly damaged and only half the people were getting across. Well, as time went on, more and more people needed to be rescued. So the town committed more of their annual budget to fix this problem. They hired professional rescue workers. They built a riverside hospital, created rehabilitation programs, invented ever more sophisticated rescue devices, and trained more volunteers. Well, one day after several years of rescuing people from the river, one young man asked, "Hey, why don't we just fix the bridge?" Well, the rescue workers were too busy to give any thought to this idea. Still, others were sitting there thinking, "I've never seen the bridge." And so they were afraid to venture from the familiar. Still, there were others that said, "I don't know how to fix the bridge." And so the bodies kept on coming. And that's when I started realizing, when I was looking into the suicide thing, is we have a lot of rescue workers out there, a lot of signs to look at when people are being floated down the river, depression and all this. But no one's fixing the bridge. So I secured the URL, fixthebridge.com, and I even got my assistant I said, because we're still in this development stage, and created Roland at fixthebridge.com. That would be my email, because it's easier to spell Fix the Bridge than it is Heart of the Father Foundation. And so my focus is fixing the bridge. And when I ask my age people, the boomers and stuff, a lot of them they're the ones that said, "I don't know how to fix the bridge." They complain. Well, there's no way. There's no talking to them. They don't send me thank you cards anymore. They don't call me like I used to call my grandmother. And all these things that they're saying, I'm like, hey, listen, they're only on chapter 1 of their life. You're on chapter 20. Quit trying to compare your chapter 20 with their chapter 1. They got a mission that's totally different from yours. Learn what that is and just listen. And instead of giving them fish or teaching them to fish, like the Chinese proverb, go in and fish with them, but let them lead you. And I'll tell you what, I've been doing this for the last 2 or 3 years, and I just wish everyone could enjoy the feeling that I get when I'm actually fishing with one of my grandchildren, and the looks on their face when I walk into a house and there's the 5 or 6 year olds are sitting on their iPads and phones, and they see Papa, and one of them gave me this one, the man, the legend, Papa. And
great T-shirt.
And they see me and they put down their phones and they come over and hug me.
Oh.
And it's like, you can see the look in their eyes. It's like, Grandpa, I really know that the world needs me. I am not afraid to go out and do the things I'm supposed to, because you know what? I know you have my back. And that's the kind of connection that we have to have, that they're not worrying about your judgment. Now, parents struggle with this connection because, a lot of them, that's where the bridge is broken with them, is they're struggling to put food on the table, or they're single households, women raising children by themselves and, without maybe a father figure there. And there's such a broken bridge there. And, we see the results of that, of kids floating, down the river. And we realize we need the grandparents more than ever. And the other one is teachers. Elaine shared with me the story that's very powerful about how effective her teacher was and pulled her out of the river. And the other one is peers, and changing the school system, teaching. You know what? I think you brought a good point, Kathy, thing about what we're teaching kids and what they're doing. Our kids are getting planted in their minds that he with the most toys wins. When we need to be teaching them that he with the most connections win. And teaching them, we got to change the school system. And, instead of the 3 R's of, subject to 3 R's, we need to have the 4 R's of education: reading, writing, arithmetic, and connection. and we need to really just focus when they're young, but teach them how to connect.
Absolutely.
Anyway, you get me going.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
And you know, it's replacing judgment with connection, because judgment is a way of separation.
Well, belief, opinion. I'm learning that opinions, listening to other people's opinions, take you further and further away from the truth. Mm-hmm. And then learning and for people to sit there and learn the truth. Just learn the truth instead of listening to opinions, because it's not doing any good.
Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
Yeah.
Like in Dragnet.
Yeah, I love.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, Kathy, when Roland was in my class, I was teaching, over Zoom, and Neil was, on the other side of my studio. And when he heard Roland talk about his why, Neil got all choked up, and he is not like a verklempt kind of guy. He was like, that guy, that mission, oh my God. And I was just like, yeah, Roland, you have a special way of, I just want to give you my checkbook, and I can't wait to, help you get on bigger and bigger stages. And Kathy, it makes me think of the fun stories you've told about your family. And, you always have such great, funny family stories. And I think of, you've told me stories about your teachers. And anyway, do you want to add on to anything that Roland said about being curious rather than judgmental, or share one of your super tips from coaching?
That's my 2x4 is replacing judgment with curiosity.
That's
if you have to talk about getting hit over the head, that was a big one. And I remember early in my coach training, there was part of this book that we were reading, and it was one of those stories where it's like an allegory or something. It's like what mice ate my cheese, or which peanut butter jar, whatever those are. They're adorable, and I like them. They're actually
my cheese and
they're very instructive. Plus, cheese would kill all of those critters anyway. But someone was asked to do this exercise. It was about keeping a judging journal, and I thought, that's a really good idea. I'll keep a judging journal. I made it maybe 5 minutes to get to the bus stop from my apartment in New York City. And I realized there is no possible way, because all I do is judge. And I realized that I had really an unexamined narrative in my head, a constant narrative that I'd never really looked at. And so at first I thought it's all judging. And then as I started to look at it, I realized, oh no, there are other things going on there. And so having the awareness to finally sort of say, well, what is going on there? Let's find out. And realizing what was criticism, what was judgment, then realizing, oh, there are other times when I have really good ideas. I started to be less reactive in my life, and I started to be more curious, far less judgmental, because I started to realize, nobody knows what went on with me, or, I'm getting on this bus or I'm getting on the train. Nobody knows what happened, before I got here, and they're going to make a judgment just based on what they see. Am I doing myself or anybody else favors by doing that? It was a huge awareness, and it changed my life.
Wow.
It makes me, it gets me emotional just thinking about that, you going there, but it's also all these people out there that are going through the same thing and walking down and averting their eyes because they think they're being judged and stuff. And it's just like, hey, you're looking at them and said, I love you. It's, I have some remarkable times we were on, I traveled with my son's band across there, and we were doing Elvis, what's his, Elvis, he's the DJ over there. He's like the DJ in New York City for the West Coast for pop. Elvis Duran, not Duran. Maybe it was. Anyway, I'm trying to remember his name. I get him mixed up with Costello and all the other Elvis Presley. But anyway, so we were there doing an interview at the radio station in New York. And the band, some of these guys have never been in New York City. And I told them, I said, hey guys, on this tour, the first, I got $20 that I'm going to give to the first 3 people that ask for money, I'm going to give them $20. And I did that. I gave one. We were in Providence, Rhode Island, doing a show, and we were downtown on the subway, sitting there, and we come to a stop, and these Hispanic people came on with their instruments and were playing on the subway. You guys ever see that?
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
Which was really cool. And then they
Yep.
have the handout, and and a guy
Right.
would take their handout, and people would put in coins and stuff. Well, I stuck the $20 bill in there, and he looked at it, and the look on his eyes were, it's embedded in my mind. But when they got done, and then when he walked out, he turned around and gave me that look again, just like such the most grateful, loved look I've ever, from a complete stranger.
Right.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there, and it's like, that was worth it. I wish I'd had $100 bill I could give. Just because, and it made it so much easier. When you go through it, and you realize that every single human being, no one has any right to be here than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
No one's better than you.
Right.
One of the things that came up with people are doing judging and making criticizing people, and I said, do you know it's okay for a neurologist to not have a bachelor's degree in accounting? In other words, it's kind of like, you expect somebody to know everything just because they're a brain surgeon. But
Right.
it's like, but they're, in accounting, they know nothing. Like,
Right.
you're stupid. But it's like, no, if we're learning, if that's what he wanted to learn, we
It's
depend.
so
We're all
great.
pieces of a puzzle.
I'm going to make every one of my clients listen to this episode. I'm going to invite them to, because, I think so many times people want to share their message. They want to tell their stories. They want to get out there more, but they're so afraid of judgment. And a lot of times it's by ourselves. We're the harshest critics. So, well, I could go on and on, but I know we have to wrap up soon. But, wow, Roland, thank you so much. So if people want to know more about getting involved, if you're a grandparent, if you know a grandparent, if you have kids or don't, but you want to get involved, how do they find you? What's the best way?
Well, I'm looking for bridge fixers, people who want to fix the bridge, taking their experiences and getting together as a group and sharing it. It's what we're trying to put together. So I do have a Facebook group called Heart of the Fathers Foundation Facebook group, and joining that. And we're just starting the creation of content, and with Elaine's help, maybe doing some of my YouTube videos, and inviting, maybe doing a Zoom group meeting. And also for those who say, well, I can't really get out and do that, it is a 501c3. So if people want to feel like they're helping, they can contribute financially, and reach out to me. I'm using the email Roland at ROLAND at fixthebridge.com. And we just set that up.
Awesome.
But that's mainly, I'm on Facebook. You can message me on Facebook, Roland Thompson. Believe it or not, there's more than one of us. It's amazing. I moved
Are
in this
you
community.
serious?
I moved in this small community, and there were 3 Roland Thompsons.
That's hilarious.
It is one of them, which died, which wasn't me. But then
Thank God.
Yeah,
Because that
The
would be
other
really
one
weird.
was, I sat there. I said, I want to meet them. And a few years ago, I was doing seminars, and I made sure that they got a seminar invitation to this, just so I could meet them. And I
great.
did.
That's
they're
hilarious.
a lot older. But I think I'm the only surviving one now. Except my grandson, whose middle name is Roland Thompson. Michael, I don't think he'll go by Roland. I'll encourage him not to. But
That's hilarious.
Mike is a pretty
Okay,
name.
so Hearts of the Fathers
Foundation.
Foundation
Yeah, Facebook
on
page.
Facebook. Okay.
Awesome.
And Roland Thompson, the one who is alive. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know. And then, Kathy Keegan, she has coached me many times. If you guys if you're new to us, I've bragged about her a lot. She's an excellent coach. She's really great if you are in a job and you are struggling and you don't feel empowered and you might want to shoot people or something, or if you're just like, I don't know if I can take it. call Kathy because she will help you.
Yeah.
Or if you're like, I'm done, I need to leave, but I don't want to burn bridges, call Kathy. Or if you just want to just have an amazing chat. She's just an amazing human being, a fabulous coach, and an amazing speaker, I might add. So that's Kathy Keegan.
Oh, Elaine.
So you can go find her at kathykeegan.com. That's with K's, KATHYKEEGAN.com, baby.
You are
What
so
did you do
good.
What did you do to her, Kathy?
I don't know. I'll send you the $20 bill, but after this other story about the $20 bill, I might have to raise that a little bit. You are the bomb. Thank you so much, Elaine, for that. And if you want to look better on camera, be better on camera, if you want to dig in deep to your story, Elaine is the person you want to talk to. She's the reason that I am able to get even deeper into the sort of whys of what I do. And I'm so grateful for her. You want to reach out to her at Elaine at Captivate the Crowd, all C's. We did this on purpose from birth, so that it wouldn't be confusing. And we are so ever grateful for this group of listeners. And if you want to share it with friends, please do. We're just so grateful that you're here. And Roland, you dropped a lot of wisdom bombs. I'm going to have to listen to this several times. There's a lot of beautiful stuff there. And thank you so much for joining us.
Beautiful stuff.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
That was the quickest 15 minutes I've ever been on. Went by really fast.
He's funny too. Yes. Yeah. So stay tuned, everybody. Watch out for Roland. Please share this. We want to grow our community, and we're going to have some really cool events coming up soon. And stay safe and healthy. And bye.
Happy
So long, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Yep.